Hello everyone, welcome back to the StilyoApps channel and thank you for joining me today. I am very excited to have with me Kausambi Manjita to talk about her app ModeMagic. It is a Shopify app that has actually won the Shopify 2020 Commerce Award for Best UX. So she's definitely someone who knows what she's talking about, and you should stay tuned to hear some more. ModMagic is powered by Mason, a no-code toolkit for commerce merchandising. And she will tell us a little bit more about what that means and how it can help you in your Shopify store. Kos, thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. So excited to talk to you again.
Same. So before we jump in to talk about your e-commerce journey and your entrepreneurial journey, I would love to hear a little bit about you beyond that, how you got started in this world and what drove you into it.
Well, I think product building in some way or the other. I've been doing that for a while. I started out my career on the other side of e-commerce. I was in IBM Labs working on supply chain management, inventory management, all of that stuff. And this was like a good 12, 13 years back. And, Shopify, of course, came up and changed everything. But at that point in time, getting online used to need a lot of these heavy systems kind of being set in place. And I was literally building a lot of that. As D2C brands exploded globally, I found the experience side more interesting. Like, how do you convert users in the shopping funnel? And I remember a running joke in my team at that point in time, that I keep so many shopping tabs open, might as well do something about it and work on it, right? Like help e-commerce teams actually create better shopping experience, considering, I have all the shopping tabs open, right? So I moved on to the other side of e-commerce, which is helping, e-commerce brands, companies. How do you better shopping experiences without having to kind of give offers or discounts all the time?
I love that. I love that you use your own passion for shopping, which I definitely share with you, to actually help brands make better business. And also it helps improve the customer experience. So it's a win-win situation here. So can you tell me a little bit about ModeMagic, where the idea came from, and what, in a sentence, would be the main value of this app?
Absolutely. So we were already working on Mason, which is essentially a no-code toolkit, as you said, to help e-commerce teams, create better experiences, better shopping experiences. But as that felt like a big problem, right? It is a big problem. How do you create better digital shopping experiences? And so, we were back in 2019, we were doing another startup, and we kind of were speaking to a bunch of e-commerce merchants globally. And even our customers at that point in time, a bunch of them were e-commerce teams. So as we spoke to quite a few folks, and I kind of shuttled between Toronto and Bangalore. So in Toronto, there was a Shopify meetup. I ended up meeting a lot of Shopify teams too. Interesting thing that we chanced upon was that, hey, even though digital shopping experiences is like a big thing, and there are many things that come under it, how do I optimize my home page, my list pages, my product details pages? Like, what does it all even mean, right? But if you zoom in, when you are a new merchant and you're setting up a store for pretty much the first year or a couple of years, your goal is, how do I quickly convert my customers, right? And the easiest, simplest thing that we noticed, it's something that you tend to miss a lot of times because it's so common, is all those quick little stickers and call outs that you just use to, highlight the kinds of products that you're trying to sell. So the equivalent of that in the real world is, if you're going into a mall or you are in a department store and you're browsing all these different sections, you have all these tags that call out, hey, like 100% cotton on this shelf, right? And you say these are like 10% discount, and depending on the kind of customer you are, you gravitate to that kind of shelves, right? So
Yes.
in a very, very same way in the online world, when I'm getting on chancing upon a store, there's so many products there. How do I take a quick decision to get into the details of one product? And those little call outs really help. So we realized that, hey, that's a very nice little way, a sharp entry point, micro entry point for teams to kind of start using the powerful Mason platform in a way, right? So that's where we launched. We decided, let's call it ModeMagic. It like changes the mode of how you're shopping. I mean, some story behind that. And then we will launch it on Shopify App Store last May.
I love that your idea came from just looking at physical stores and kind of recreating the experience online, because it's pretty similar to how when we built Reconvert, which is basically a thank you page optimization, we were thinking about you get to the register on a real, like in a supermarket or something, and you see all of these little upsells and deals that even as you're buying and as you're finishing the sale, they're offering more and more products. So we were like, okay, yeah, we should do that online. It's the same idea. And I think online imitating real life is really the way to go, because it just works. It's human psychology, basically. So you've been up on the App Store for a little over a year right now, and you've already got over 30,000 merchants, which is incredible, using the app. And I know that out of these 30,000 merchants, you've analyzed at least 2,000 Shopify stores and talked to the merchants. And I would love to hear from their experience, from your conversations with them. What are the best tactics that they're using to improve CRO that you've seen working?
Yeah, absolutely. And over this last year, yes, we've been able to help, now crossing over 30,000 teams since a year. And it's really exciting to see how people, even if you give them a solution, at the end, how people come back with more ideas around how they can use the solution. You would have seen that in Reconvert too. It's always very exciting to hear back from the merchants themselves on, you gave us this, but we applied it in this way, right? So a few things that we've learned, over this last year, dedicated, looking at the way merchants are implementing ModeMagic on their stores. And we also offer customization, so which basically means that we have a library of call outs and highlights that they can utilize, but they can also kind of edit it. So they can make it their own, which is very similar to their brand voice or the brand colors and all of that, right? Or even for their domain. So we have like a request what's missing kind of features, and then, people kind of jump in and ask. So the number one thing that we started realizing quite early on is that initially the kind of call outs that we were providing was more just discount, or like your feature based kind of call outs, right? Which is again 100% cotton or vegan, or we were thinking like, yeah, these are things that we know about, so let's have it there. Interesting thing, the first thing that started coming out is that people were asking about automation. So, hey, I don't want to be calling new arrivals out manually every time, because, I add new products in my store. Can you just, mark them as new arrivals? I'm going to say, this is the new arrival call out that I want. This is the position, on the product page. But after that, I don't want to do it every single day. So it was very interesting how folks came back to us, especially mid-market to large stores, which are your advanced or plus stores, coming back to us, pinging us on chat support or submitting, feature request, which was around, can this be done automatically? I don't want to do it manually all the time, right? So that was one big learning, that, hey, teams want to leverage the power of some kind of automation where they don't have to do everything manually every day. And it's like, for us, the application is, of course, in terms of how do we call out highlights of a product. But you see that everywhere in e-commerce technology now, people, merchants do want to eliminate the need for consistently operating tools, right? So any kind of e-commerce solution that you are giving, it doesn't need to be only for your product images or your experience side, but any other kind of, products that you're building for e-commerce teams, I think looking at it for us, the learning is looking at it from the lens of, hey, you can of course do it, but is there some way to, take the operation out from them on a day-to-day? Because everybody is remote, they're all lean teams. How do we maximize their time by not, wasting it on operating tools, right? So that was our first learning, observation and learning from the teams. The second interesting thing, this is again more drilling down into experience itself. Experience is full funnel. So initially our thought was like, hey, you call out the highlights. It really makes sense for a list page, because you see something on 10% discount or something like trending, as a shopper, you take a decision which one you want to click on. So our perspective was that, and I've worked in e-commerce for so long before, so honestly speaking, my first instinct was still that it helps in your product list pages. But actually folks came back and started discussing opportunities of, hey, can we also put it out on Google Shop? What kind of stickers and call outs does Google Shop allow, right? On my Insta feed, I want to call out the same. I want to call out like trending products and bestsellers on my Instagram feed too. Even going out to, hey, on the product details page, can I call out multiple highlights, not just one? Like, for example, it's breathable, machine washable, and 100% cotton. Can I put all three together, right? So the interesting thing, the second learning for us over there is that people or merchants specifically are not, unaware about the impact of any decision they're taking on the entire funnel. Right? They're consistently looking at the full funnel. For them, it's not about this page and that page and this ad. They're actually thinking, I'm acquiring, I'm engaging, I'm converting, I'm retaining consistently. It was quite amazing, even small teams, thinking like that, right? So two things. One is that people wanted some of the day-to-day operations out from them. The second is that they really wanted, they were looking at full funnel impact of this. And the third is experimentation. So A/B testing. If I say 100% cotton versus cotton, right? Do people click on something more, right? So they wanted an ability to also experiment on different kind of call outs. That's where giving them customization ability to be able to test it out themselves, right? Yeah, these are three learnings, a lot of very verbose, but three short learnings.
I love that. I think, again, it's very similar to our experience with FreeConvert. Like, we continuously build the onboarding process of the app to be as automatic as possible.
Yeah.
And it's when you develop an app for Shopify, any kind of SaaS, but especially for something like Shopify, which is for business owners, on the one hand, you want to give them full customization, full control of every little thing that they display to their customers, because it's super important. It's part of the entire funnel, like you said. But on the other hand, you want to make it as easy as possible. So finding the right balance between giving them the option to like one-click activate, and also giving them the option to change every little letter and word and color that they want to change. So it's a challenge, but I think it's a really good challenge to have, because it kind of forces you to look at the funnel with your customers as well.
Okay. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good lesson for any Shopify merchant listening, that looking at the entire funnel is the key to success. You have to see the entire user journey, and then a lot of the times when you use a lot of apps to enhance your store, you need to see how they affect the entire journey and not just one single point. So I love that you mentioned that as well. Now, why is it important if someone has a few storefronts that they are operating? Why is it important to sync all of them for an online retailer?
To kind of sync all the different storefronts that they have? Oh, absolutely. I mean, think of it this way. We have such short attention spans as shoppers. And the primary thing is that we are bombarded with a lot of content all the time, great designs, everything. And so if I'm spending, as a merchant on one side, I'm spending so much to kind of take my word out to that shopper, to Cos or someone, to Ruth, and actually showing them that, hey, this is who I am. And imagine that experience is not same across all the different channels that you're on, right? So what happens is that I don't have the recall. I'm not consistently remembering that it is you as a merchant who I'm chancing upon. So it usually takes at least like 3 to 5 touch points for someone to convert, right? So you're missing out on that, because the more, every time it feels like something new, you are literally rebuilding the credibility and the trust you have from scratch, right? That's one. That's like across your channels, right? Now within your single channel funnel, like any funnel that you have, like let's say your customer saw you on an Instagram and then now they are in your store, right? It's almost like any kind of show or book, a show on Netflix or a book that you're reading too. I was saying book, and then I realized that like nowadays it's more Netflix I should be talking about. But it's the same experience. Like you watch the trailer or you read the summary, and then you open up on chapter 1, and hey, wait, this is not what I was expecting, right? It's a drop of fear, right? This is clearly a drop off point when you see the promise of something, and then you land on the page, and then or on the store or in your product details page or something of that sort, and then the experience is broken, right? So it definitely causes another friction over there for me as a shopper to convert, right? And the interesting part, is that one is your, across the channels, how do you give the same experience? And which is important for sure. But the in-funnel experience being consistent, it gets even more important, because you are wasting money, right? It is your CAC. You are spending every little dollar to actually acquire that customer. And the deeper they're going down the funnel, the more you're spending on that, right? You don't want to lose that person. You definitely don't want to. You want to make sure that you get the best out of that person landing on your home page of your store or your details page of your store, right? Going into the checkout flow, you definitely don't want to lose and add more to your CAC, right? So if you've spent a lot, or you've spent whatever you have spent, and you've already got those shoppers into your store, it gets more and more important to give them the same experience inside the funnel. Otherwise your CAC really gets, it gets impacted.
Yeah, I love these points, because we talk a lot about branding in general and how important branding is right now for any kind of business, because the competition is huge, especially in the e-commerce space, especially now not yet post, but with the pandemic and everything is online. And because of that, the competition is just growing and growing, and your only way to stand out is to brand yourself. And I think keeping the experience consistent and the brand language and messaging and colors and everything consistent across all of the funnel and all of the different storefronts and devices and platforms is super important to really make sure that your customers know that it's you talking to them. So I think when a customer lands on the store, it's also something that we continuously say for all of our tools, honestly, in StilyoApps are related to CRO in one way or another, and to increasing the average order value, because a lot of, especially first-time merchants, think that, okay, the customer is here, they should buy something and I'm done. But that's not how it works. Getting the customer to your store is so expensive nowadays. Make use of it. Make sure that they are converting, that when they are converting, they are buying as much as possible, and that you are collecting ways to communicate with them later. Yeah. Which is also super important. You can't just assume that someone would buy because they landed on your store for the first time. So yeah, I completely agree with your points.
And also that also is like going back up the funnel, right? Like, let's say at some part of your funnel, some information has changed, right? Your products are running out of stock, like you only have a last few left, right? And at that point, if that information is not flowing back up the funnel too, like on your Instagram story, for example, or on your homepage, right? That's a negative too, because that's again another drop-off point, because you're giving wrong information, right? And every time you give wrong information, it's, the person's now jumping into the funnel. As he's moving down, he's saying that, hey, I'm losing trust. I saw something and that's not available right now, right?
Yeah, I love that. And it's kind of like also, it makes you seem a little unprofessional, because why are you advertising something that's out of stock?
Exactly.
Advertise a different product, or at least offer something that is similar enough that the customer can fall back to. Exactly. That's a really good point. Yeah. Okay, so we kind of threw the concept of no code out there, but I would love to, if you could tell us a little bit about what is the no code movement and how it integrates with the e-commerce space.
Absolutely. I'm very, very passionate about it, considering I can't code. So, I mean, if I have to set up, if I have to set up a store and a non-coder in a technology space, right? Like, but the whole point is that I think globally, if you look at it, no code is permeating across different domains, right? And the whole fact of Shopify doing so spectacular is another example of it. Like, I recently was speaking to a designer. We want to revamp our website, so we were speaking to a designer, and she's a designer, full visual design, etc. So not someone who you would assume to be like very easily, hey, I can log in and I can do stuff. I didn't expect it. But she went on in Shopify and literally set up her own store. And so she was able to understand like some of the problems, and then able to understand how, ModeMagic and Mason helps, etc. But now going back to that, looking at how even someone, a visual designer who definitely doesn't have, setting up an online e-commerce store seems like a big thing. And a visual designer, young visual designer, she was just able to figure it out on herself, right? That really empowers people, honestly, to be independent and to run their own business and be a solopreneur without even having to worry about it. It kind of opens up the whole creator economy in a way, right? And so I think that no-code movement, the more it's permeating in different sectors, it really enables more people to be self-reliant and to be able to operate and earn, follow their passion and do what they really want to do and still earn out of it without having the need to depend on, hey, I need several developers, I need designers, I need some expert to kind of like help me succeed online, right? So I think that's why no code as a concept is quite empowering. It gives, it democratizes access, I guess.
Yeah, I think the barrier of entry to becoming an entrepreneur that nowadays is just much lower, which means a lot of the times people, I think the failure rate might be higher, but it's okay because the risk you're taking is also lower. You can afford to fail without it destroying you financially, which is, for me personally, it's one of the things that enabled me to get into, to even start my own business. So I love how it empowers people to take control of their life and financial stability, basically.
And then, sorry, just a thought came in, so I'll kind of add that. And then when you look at retail, right? Like retail used to be like primarily, I was talking about like when I was working in IBM Labs and the kind of products we were building, retail was more about large marketplaces or large e-commerce firms with a lot of money, right? And they had to use products which was hard to implement. So they needed the entire backing of, raising a lot of funds, hiring large teams to be able to succeed online. But when you come to think of it, in our regular day, retail was different. When we were younger, before the pre-internet, I would say, or the early days of the internet, and there were folks in the community who were selling products, right? That lady in the corner who sells that amazing cup of coffee, for example, right? And that became difficult and almost impossible to replicate online. But with no code, now you can replicate that. So anybody, can actually still succeed, even if they're just selling best curated set of coffees and nothing else.
I agree. And then on the other end of that, there's also product sourcing, which used to be, you used to have to either manufacture or buy in bulk without knowing if you would get a return on your investment. You would have to hold it in some sort of warehouse, take care of shipping. It's just a lot of logistics and initial funding for someone who doesn't necessarily have the experience to really be able to make this into a profitable business. And nowadays with dropshipping, I've gotten to see, I'm in a lot of Facebook groups that are related to Shopify and e-commerce, and I've seen a lot of discussions around dropshipping and is it a scam? And I think whenever I get the chance to, I kind of put my 2 cents in, because I think people look at it the wrong way. It could be a scam. I mean, you could be a dropship scammer, but the fact that you are a dropshipper doesn't mean that you are a scammer, because some of the bigger brands that we know right now started off dropshipping. It's not, I don't believe that it's a sustainable business model forever, but it can be your way to kind of lower your entry barrier to get into the world of e-commerce if you're interested in that. And afterwards, you can start buying in bulk, reducing costs. There's so much you can do. So I really love on both the physical product world and the no-code world, where you can kind of create these online tools that empower businesses to succeed without huge investments. Yeah,
exactly.
So what would be your main 3 learnings from the impact that you've had in the past few months in your work and in your business?
That's a very, very interesting question. And there's so many things and you are executing every day. So sometimes it's not something that you're consciously thinking about, like, what are the learnings, what impact did we have? But as the team, we are hiring a few more people in the team, etc. And then you have to bring everybody on the same page, right? Like you have to explain to them the background and then, look towards the vision and all of that. And I think as I'm doing that, a couple of things are coming up very clearly, right? I think number one thing that it's a learning. I haven't done it well. Me and my co-founder, we realized that is something we should do better, is essentially over communicate sometimes what we want to do and what we're trying to do, right? From the perspective of this is the problem. Like even this little anecdote that I told you, a lot of times a new person joins our team and he doesn't get a chance to hear it because we're less directly, hey, onboarding, and then, here's your work. But it's so important to bring, everybody, even your customers, on the same page, right? Sometimes people just, install your app. You would have seen that. Install your app, they try it out, and then they jump out, right? It's most likely the backstory, the ethos, the reason why we started. All of those matter to people as much as we don't realize how much it matters, but it matters to all of them too. So your team, your customers, hopefully, your investors, your whatever, your champions, for everybody being on the same page of the why, kind of remembering always that, hey, this is why we did it, right? There is a gap in design and data, and you have to plug that together to be able to create good shopping experiences. And just reiterating that almost like a mantra really, really helps. I think that's something that I have learned the hard way, that it is important to talk about it. It's important to put that voice out and speak about the reason why you started what you did in the first place. It really helps align everybody into the same direction. I think that's something that I have been now learning. The second thing is the opposite of that, which is take a lot of time out and keep writing like what you did right or wrong in this last week. And I never do that because you're always running again. But it really helps because just these 3 things that I mentioned about, what we saw, the patterns of what customers asked us. If you're zooming in every day, then the patterns don't emerge because it's one request after another. Like someone saying, I want this, someone saying, I want that, right? But when you zoom out, it's like, oh, okay, all of that is actually automation, or all of that is, so that zooming out is required, but you don't get a time get time or get that space in your brain to zoom out and see what are the patterns, even in your customer request or what you're doing good or bad, right? If you don't take that time out. And I think it is it's workaholics usual reaction is let's just keep working. But the second thing that I'm learning now with this last year is that, hey, like, do step back sometimes, and it almost force yourself to write down what you learned, to just put things down on paper and just like think and watch patterns, right? Definitely helps make your product better, make your business better for your customers end of the day, right? And I think third thing is exactly what we preach to e-commerce teams. I think it applies to even us as apps, micro SaaS or SaaS or B2B, B2C, it doesn't matter. The full funnel experience really counts. So if you are if you have a product, it does not matter whether you are e-commerce or whether you are a SaaS company, because end of the day, your customer success experience, your customer support experience, your emails that are going out, your marketing that you're starting to do, your website, your onboarding, your activation, all of that have to really come together and give that unified experience. It's a lot of times it's the brand, but a lot of times it's also like, reiterating, hey, this is what we do, this is what we don't do, the scope, kind of, because it all happens. Scope creeps happen, as you hire more people tend to kind of bring their own color and perspective on how to solve problems. And it really is so important to tighten the funnel. And it's so easy to preach and so much harder to do.
Yeah, I first of all, I like that your 3 points are very much related to basically your mindset as a founder and how to look at your business from kind of a bird's eye view and not just deep in the trenches, which is very tempting to do a lot of the times. And you kind of have to force yourself to take a step back. Like you said, once a week is like a wet dream.
It's the dream. It's the
dream. Definitely. We started doing actually pretty recently, like in the past 3 months, we started doing monthly review calls with our team. Each team has their own call where we kind of talk about our goals from last month, what we have accomplished, what we can improve in, what are our goals for the next month. And it's the more we do it, the more I see how difficult it is to kind of focus what a team does to a few narrow set of goals, because when you narrow your focus, you usually do better job. And it's very difficult to say, okay, we're going to give up on this, not necessarily give up, but this is going to be on the back burner. We'll focus in on this. So that's, I think being able to kind of look at things and understand what would actually move the needle and what would take you forward, make your product better, improve your customer experience, make your funnel smoother is the key, really, to make the right decisions and then just execute on them.
Oh, it's the dream, as you said, right? Like these are 3 learnings that we should do. And if you ask me, if you like really ask me, like, Kaus, are you doing it just like no chance. It's just reminding yourself that, hey, these are learnings, don't forget, try to do it. But yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, and I also, I loved your first point about communicating your story and your vision to your team and to your customers, because I think when you connect people behind a joint vision, it allows you to kind of turn them into your partners. They're not just your employees, they're not just your customers, they're partners kind of looking towards the same vision as you are, and it just makes everything smoother and easier to kind of grow together. So I really love this point. Yeah. It's actually something we need to remember in our company. I know that we could tell our story a little more and the ideas behind it. So that's a good reminder, I'm sure, for everyone listening. Okay, so I have 2 last questions, kind of a quick round, we can call it. So first, what would be your number 1 tip for someone starting out in e-commerce now to help them actually succeed?
Starting out as an e-commerce merchant or an app? Or
e-commerce merchant.
Oh, I mean, it is so easy to come online, but the gap is actually how do you keep growing online, right? So I think like anybody who's trying to set up online, don't forget that online, we tend to think of everything as websites and pages. And so it feels very different from a store, right? But don't forget that in the end, you are creating a store. So you know everything. You know how it is to shop. You know how it is to have a good experience as a shopper. So consistently remembering that as you create your online store really helps, because then you're not thinking, it's not a new thing you have to learn. It's just the construct of how that store is looks a little different, but in the end you are running a store and you have done that before, or at least you have it shopped before. So you know what it is to have when you love a brand and when you love products, or when you have a great shopping experience, you know why, right? So just remembering that helps, because there's a lot of things to learn, of course. And more importantly, as e-commerce merchants, you might not be like the best data guy, but it's okay, because you remember the data is nothing but all the signals that you want to understand your customers better with, right? So yeah, just remember that you are a great shopper or you had a great store. So it's just bringing that store experience online.
Yeah, basically use your own experience as a customer and apply it to your own customers. They probably want similar things. That's a great tip. And we always tell people, don't try to invent the wheel. Use known principles of design, of upselling, of everything, and then learn from the data. But start with something that already exists and just adjust it to yourself. Okay, so last question is your question to the viewers. What would you like to ask them to answer in the comments?
Yeah, so definitely. I think I would love to understand, which part of the funnel is your weak link or missing link, right? Like, is it, your when users are the users or shoppers dropping off the most when they're landing into your store, or is it inside your store? Is it your home page or your list page or your product details, or even your, the conversion, the checkout pages, right? Where do you think is your weakest link in the funnel? And me and Ruth, we would be happy to brainstorm with you, bring in, have a conversation with you and try and understand if there's something that we can all work together to solve that.
Definitely. That's a great question. So guys, let us know in the comments your weakest points in the funnel, and we can help you. We can try to help you figure out ways to improve it and strengthen it, because there are solutions out there for everything. Lastly, before we finish off, where can our viewers find you online, on social, your website, and your apps?
Yes, you can very easily find us on the Shopify App Store. ModeMagic is there in Growing Your Business collection, or you can just search for ModeMagic, ModeMagic, and you will find it. And as for me, my team is Team Mason. So ModeMagic is one of our apps, and we have Mason, which actually helps you do a lot more with your store. And you can find me on Twitter, K Manjita, and Ruth will share that, as well as on LinkedIn. I think I'm a bit more active on LinkedIn than on Twitter. And so Kausambi Manjita, my name's right here. You can find me on LinkedIn, and yeah, happy to get you an offer, help you with setting up your store, or just bring Ruth in and brainstorm around how to tighten your funnel.
Okay, that's amazing. We're going to link down below everything we talked about, and you're going to be able to find Cos on social media and their app very easily. I highly recommend that you check out ModeMagic and Mason, and let us know about your experience in the comments below. And if you guys want to try ModeMagic for 30 days free trial, we have a discount code down below. Install the app and enter the discount code in there, and you will get your 30 days free to try out the app. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for this conversation. I know I learned a lot from you. I'm sure the viewers did as well. Okay, I lost it in the middle of the sentence. And it was great talking to you. And it was great talking to you. And we'll connect more on social.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye. Take care.
Bye bye.